Luka and Kyrie combined in the fourth quarter of this series, 20 points a game.
Look at that.
Shooting 56%. 70 from 3.
70 from 3 is pretty good.
Only 4 turners last night. They had 21.
Wow.
So, Nick.
And they were tough shots last night, man.
He's making them
It's
all.
unbelievable.
He's making them all.
The defense isn't horrible.
No,
all
that's
that
what I'm
stuff.
saying.
Yeah.
What impressed you the most?
Well, I mean, they're up 3-0, and this series started in Minnesota, which means, Brou, what did they do?
Oh, here we go. I'm
They
looking for
went
banners.
into
Sandwiches.
the Timberwolves' house.
Is he going to get
They
a
really
sandwich?
did.
He
They
better
got-
not get a sandwich.
They got comfy on the couch. And listen, Luka's not into sandwiches, chips, and soda
here we
pop.
go.
Are you
We
sure?
know what Luka's
What is he
into.
into?
He said, you know what? Let me crack open an ice cold beer.
Wow.
Memorial
Let me
Day.
grab, hold on, let me grab
Nice
a
one.
controller so I can get my Overwatch ranking even higher. And then he said, Rudy, bring me my hookah. And he absolutely celebrated and
really?
enjoyed.
Really?
Listen, in their house, he kicked his feet up, turned on Overwatch, took a few.
You better not be getting high.
No, it's hookah. It's tobacco-based. Glorious rips from his hookah, and took control of the series.
Did we buy that?
We bought that hookah after Game 2, anticipating Game 3, and
I
that's
gotta
what
be
Brou.
honest. That looks better than
Then
the
your sandwich,
Yeah,
you got the nice
that's not bad.
PlayStation controller,
That's
you got
not
the ice
bad.
cold beer, and you got Luka's. Be careful, Lucas. Those charcoals get very, very hot. Listen, guys, this is a perfect storm of, and this is where I think you'll agree. One of
I actually agree with what you just
Okay,
did.
well,
I
thank
mean,
you.
that's exactly what they did. I hate to say it, but
very
it's
much,
true.
Brou. It's a perfect storm of one of the greatest offensive players the league's ever seen.
Yes.
Luka is that. He is one of the greatest, heliocentric or not, offensive forces the league has seen. A number 2 option who, when his mind is right and he is not relied on to be the number 1 option, is as good of a number 2 postseason killer as we've seen. Like, that's what his resume is in this specific setting. And a roster built exactly with not only those players' strengths, but maybe more importantly, those 2 players' weaknesses in mind. And all of that, plus 2 guys who are absolutely fearless at the end of close games, is how you take a team that looked like, oh my God, they should be the favorites to win the title in Minnesota, and 3 games later, every close game late, you're like, well, they're going to lose.
Yeah.
They're going to lose because the other guys are going to take it from them.
It looks somewhat, not exactly the same, but it's a lot like the Lakers-Nuggets, where the games were, Lakers are right there, and then Denver just pulls away. And it gets to the point where it seems inevitable. And that's what this is. Look, the difference in this series is the 2 stars for Dallas have shown up in a huge way, particularly down the stretch. And the 2 stars for Minnesota, for the most part, have not. Ant's had moments. The Cat is totally been non-existent, shooting 27% from the floor, 13% from 3. And then down the stretch. Look at this. The Timberwolves have held the lead in the last 5 minutes in each game.
I know.
They were up 4, or they were up 4 with 3.5 minutes left in game 1.
Yep.
Get outscored 10-3. They're up 5 with 1.5 minutes left in game 2. Get outscored 6-0 the rest of the way. What are you smiling about? You got something?
No, I don't get it.
They're up 2 with 5 minutes left yesterday, and they get outscored 14-3 down the stretch.
Yeah.
And you are right, Nick. Look, Kyrie Irving will probably not go down. I mean, who knows what he does going forward, but most likely won't go down as a top 10 point guard of all time. But skill-wise, I've always said this about Kyrie up until like this season. He's really only been about, as far as accomplishments, about 75% of the player he could have been. And he's still a Hall of Famer. If he didn't have, and some of it was injuries too, not just off the court stuff, but his game is crazy. And so at the end of games, you have literally got 2 unguardable players. All right? And they both can handle the ball terrifically. They both can get to the rim and finish. They both can score in the mid-range. They both can shoot the three. They both can catch and shoot. They both can pass. So if you double them, they can either throw an alley-oop or spray it out to a three-point shooter or pass it back to the other.
It's like Kyrie and
there's
LeBron.
nothing. It's actually different than that because LeBron was not the jump shooter, especially at that time, that Luka is. Like, I think, is more dangerous offensively, not defensively, obviously, because LeBron was such a great defender. But when you got two guys that can shoot it the way, and we said it earlier, the defense on some of these threes Luka's hitting and some of the mid-range shots, the turnarounds.
The defense is good by Minnesota.
It's just, they're playing well.
You follow the NBA transactions probably closer than most people, certainly me. When did Kyrie and Luka hook up? When did they sign?
Midway
Recently?
through last year.
Oh, last year?
Yeah.
Oh, so Brou, you knew that Kyrie and Luka were two great offensive forces going into this series, right?
Yeah.
They're on the team.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So why did you pick the Wolves after you just gave this long spiel about how great they're two of the best players? They're better,
the Wolves were good in the clutch against Denver. It's not, look at how close these games have been. It's not just that they've lost, but these games are right there for the taking, and Anthony Edwards has fallen off down the stretch in some of these games. And we'll get to him because I got a lot to say about him. But, I just think it's not like they're getting blasted. I'm wondering what is this grin?
I have a
he
little
must
bit.
have something.
I can tell you. He was grinning because he thought you were going to unveil close sweep again.
We're right
That's
there.
what he
We're
thought.
close
That's
sweep
why he was
adjacent.
grinning.
We're
but
very
then
close.
he did the absolute.
It's been so bad down the stretch.
Right, and then he did this thing where he tried to kill you for your pick when he refused to make a pick because, in part, that's exactly what I did to him with the Nuggets Timberwolves series, and you're catching shrapnel. Everything you said about Kyrie is true, and I have no problem sitting here on TV and saying, listen, I picked the Mavs to win the title last year, and when they got Kyrie, I said it hurt their chances. Like I was so down on Kyrie, the actual player, versus Kyrie, the idea. And he has
You mean because of the off-the-court stuff?
Because the off-the-court stuff impacted on the court. It wasn't just off-the-court things. It was because of off-the-court things he wasn't available for you.
Right.
And post-LeBron, when he was available for you in the playoffs, he was bad in the postseason. And that has now obviously changed. And so he does deserve credit. The Luka piece of it, if I may quickly, this has been the trajectory he's been on since he was a child. At 16 years old, he's an impact player in the second best league in the world. At 18 years old, he's the MVP of that league and a champion. At 20 years old, he's a league rookie of the year in the NBA. At 21, he scores 42 in his first playoff game ever. At 22, he averages 36, 8, and 10 in the series against the Clippers. At 23, he has a down year. And at 25, he is, or I skipped a year there, but you guys follow it. At 23, he's in the conference finals.
Right.
Pardon me, beating the
last year.
At 24, he has a down year. And at 25, he's on the precipice of the finals and entering is he actually the best player in the world discussion.
Yeah, it's getting
That's
close.
been who he's supposed to be with one weird outlier year last year. And obviously, Kidd and Nico Harrison and Kyrie and everyone else deserve a ton of credit.
Look, I honestly, as much as I've loved Kyrie's game from Jump Street, I didn't think they should re-sign him.
Yeah.
Because I felt like if you give him multiple years, now he's got the security financially to just, maybe he does some more stuff off the court. But maybe that was a wake-up call. Maybe the fact that he didn't get
the full max.
Maybe
he just matured.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it, too.
Okay, as you were referencing earlier, T-Wolves this series, some people are calling it a close sweep. I don't know if you want to go there. But are you giving up on your Wolves? It's going to happen eventually.
I'll go there. Close sweep. I'm not ashamed of a close sweep.
But you think it's a sweep?
Well, look, this is tough. But I guess I'm not immune. Each one of us has had to take our medicine this postseason. You picked the Lakers to beat Denver. You, of course, nobody's beating the Nuggets in a 7-game series.
Yeah.
And I guess now it's looking like with Brou's Wolves in not a hole, in an abyss.
Yeah.
All right. And you guys know I don't abandon ship at the first sign of danger.
No.
All right. When they were down 3-2 to the Nuggets and you were dying for me to come over to your side, what did I do? I stood 10 toes down.
That's true.
When they were down 20, if you had texted me with them down 20, I would have said the Wolves are going to win. All right. I had them. All right. Now, as much as I would love to sit here and say I envision later this week throwing on the sunglasses, putting on the robe, kicking up my feet.
I like that.
I also am responsible on this show for true, heartfelt, cogent analysis.
True. It's not out here like a carrot top.
All right, so Timberwolves, it's over. Your run is done.
Yeah.
At least this year. There will be no historic comeback. I hate to say it, but you are done.
Okay. Yeah. There we go.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that.
Yeah. I thought it would feel better, to be honest with you.
Well, here's the thing. And Brou tried to be a little tricky there, saying I had to eat it because I got a first-round series
You did.
pick, right?
Yeah,
but then by that same logic, I do believe, and by I do believe, I mean I checked the tape this morning. You multiple times had the Clippers beating these Dallas Mavericks, who I think now you're going to think. That was the same time I had the Lakers over the Nuggets. But that's neither here nor there. Here's where you guys both, I think, missed the boat on this one. Dallas has arguably been the best team in the league for a couple months. We can show it to you what Dallas has been since early March. The numbers, I was going to show it earlier, but we can get to it now. It's 27-8, but it's better than that because 3 of those 8 losses,
number one? Who's
they
number
didn't
one?
play. I think it's Boston.
Okay, then I would say Boston. You can take this graphic off the screen.
Okay, so I don't actually agree.
Is that the best in the West?
27-8.
Oh,
They're
yeah,
second.
second.
It's a bad.
Yeah,
I understand, but so if just please let me finish explaining the graphic, if I may. The 26-5 is when their guys play because Luka and Kyrie both sat out the final 2 games of the year. That is the best record in basketball. The defense has been unbelievable, and when you consider difficulty of competition over the course of the playoffs, I think that tilts heavily in the favor of anyone in the West versus anyone in the East. You then add to this series, or what the Mavs have done all playoffs, which is a stat TNT showed, we put our own little twist on it, which I don't think is about the Timberwolves not having it. Luka's thrown 28 alley-oops, successful alley-oops these playoffs. The rest of the Mavs thrown 20. Every other team's at 9. So it's 48-9 to 8-6. It's not like alley-oops are worth more, but it's about a 98% shot. And the fact that they're getting them at 5x the rate of everyone else means they are creating some of the easiest offense. Right. I don't think that's an indictment. I don't think that's an indictment on the Timberwolves.
I mean, a little bit.
If they were doing it, they did it in round 1 to the Clippers. They did it in round 2 to the number 1 seed, top 5 defense Thunder. They're going to do it in round 4 to Boston. Whether they're going to win or not, they're going to have 5-6 alley-oops a game. It is part of the last one Luka had in this game to ice it was falling down left-handed. Yeah. And there's no defense for that.
And for as much as people want to rip Gobert, it's almost an impossible situation for him. He has to come up and help, and then Luka will just throw the lob.
But don't you think that they took that away from the Nuggets? Like that Joker to Aaron Gordon, all of a sudden it wasn't there, and then it's back where Gobert's letting it. I'm not saying he's letting it happen, but it seems to be available in this series, and it wasn't in the last series.
I think part of it, the Nuggets had really one playmaker. Yeah. As great as Jamal Murray is, not really a playmaker for other players, and they got 2. And that's
also you got to guard Luka further out from the basket than you have to guard Joker. So there's, you know what I mean? There's more ground to make up.
I'll say that, what I should have seen is, and we talked about it a little bit. No 22. Anthony Edwards is 22. Yeah. No 22 has ever been the year-old player has been the best player on his team in the history of the NBA that won a championship. Mm-hmm. And this goes back to George Mikan. Yeah. All right, all the others, Magic, Kobe, who were young. They weren't the best players on their team at that point.
LeBron didn't win when he
LeBron didn't win. And so I thought with his supporting cast, even though he's technically the best player, I thought with Cat and Gobert and Conley that they would be good enough to win it. Yep. And obviously that's not the case. Yep. And so, he's learning. You're seeing why no 22-year-old players ever led a team to a championship, because he's still figuring it out. He's still figuring out when to be aggressive, when to get other guys involved.
Series of his life, which isn't helpful.
Well, he's taking too many shots pregame, probably.
Oh, okay.
I bring that down to 1,100. I would save 400 for the game. Here's the best point differential in the last 30 postseasons. Now, maybe this says something about the Celtics' dominance. Maybe it says something about a moderately easy injury-plagued path, even though Porzingis isn't playing. Have you been impressed with the Celtics?
Yeah, you guys know I'm hard on the Celtics. To say the path has been easy it's just unbelievably easy. Like, I've never seen this in the NBA. I haven't done all the years, but I don't remember a team. Jimmy Butler, best player, out in the first round. Donovan Mitchell, best player. Jared Allen, maybe the second best player, out against Cleveland. And now Tyrese Halliburton out.
Can I make just a quick
Porzingis not close to their best player.
No, I know. Isn't that the reward for getting the number 1 seed?
Injuries? The other team's being injured? I don't think so.
Yeah, a little bit, because when you're playing a Heat team you're playing other teams that go through some injury strife and drop down in the rankings, and you get to be the number 1 seed.
All these injuries happened. But the Heat weren't the 8 seed because Jimmy got hurt. Jimmy got hurt in the final game before the playoffs started. The Donovan Mitchell was healthy when the series started.
Was Donovan Mitchell healthy the whole season?
No, but
Donovan Mitchell got hurt. The Cavs dropped, and they got to play.
And then he was fully healthy, and we were talking about him being great in round 1 and scoring 50. And then he got hurt. And Tyrese Halliburton.
But he was hurt during the year, is what I'm saying. Tyrese Halliburton was hurt during the year.
I agree, yes, but I don't, you asked the question, I don't agree.
I think you're saying give them credit for putting themselves in the number 1 spot.
That's all I'm saying.
Right? Because the Bucks didn't put themselves in the number 2 spot. Like they could have avoided Indiana first. So I get what you're saying. But it's still been a yellow brick road to the NBA Finals. I'll give them credit in that they're not fooling around. They, 2 5-game series. You could argue they could have swept, but they've blown them out in all the wins essentially. And this series they haven't had all blowouts, but.
No, hold on. But all of a sudden, I haven't. You're oddly defensive about a team that I feel like you were openly skeptical of, up to and including discounting Tatum's performance in the finals when Brou and I defended him. Right. And now,
just being honest.
And all week we tried to get you to pick a team to win the championship. Are you now picking Boston?
I certainly like them.
Okay, but
you ready to make a pick?
So are you ready to make a pick?
Your wounds have healed?
Not ready yet.
Ready to get back out there? What?
But I'm certainly not going to side with you.
Okay.
And the Mavs and your shit.
I got a pick to make.
Here's the thing.
I will say this. I will say this. And I'm leaning Dallas strongly. I think I'm going to pick Dallas. The Celtics, if you go there, Wilds, look, they do have great defenders in Drew Holiday and Derek White, 2 great perimeter defenders for Kyrie. You got size and some good defenders in Brown and Tatum to defend Luka. And they spread the floor with that 5-man out offense to bring Gafford and guys away from the rim. So I think they do match up. Remember I said last week, I think they match up better with Dallas than Minnesota. So I think there's a reason if you want to go there.
I might.
There's a little support for you.
I just can't give them a ton of, people say, what more do they have to do? Being down 8 with 2 minutes left to a Pacers team without Tyrese Halliburton, even though you pulled out the win, is not something to me that engenders confidence. Game 1.
They have the number 1 scoring margin in the playoffs.
I understand.
What do you want to do?
Well, I understand that, and which is why we are paid for our analysis. Just my opinion.
Well, if they have the number 1 scoring margin in the playoffs, and you're like, they were down in the 4th and came back. What do you want to do? Have a bigger number 1 scoring margin?
The question is, man, was I impressed with Boston? And since I was last here, since we were last on TV, here's what I've seen them do. Have a nice win in Game 2, and then Game 3, I think, sleepwalk against a team that has that starting 5 has no business in the conference finals, and they got away with it. Does that impress me is the question. It does not. We'll see if they end up playing up to the stats you're showing, say they are one of the greatest teams ever. I think that they are not even one of the 3 best teams in the NBA. So we'll see. So we'll see how it plays out.
I'm definitely taking the Celtics.
Is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, after this.
You got the Celtics? All right, there it is.
Some sad news we're going to end the segment with. Bill Walton has passed away at the age of 71. He anchored a legendary run with UCLA, won 2 NBA championships, is a member of the Hall of Fame, and brought an infectious joy throughout his broadcasting career. Brou, how will you remember Bill Walton?
Well, first of all, I mean, obviously he was a tremendous player, and a lot of people might not know, casual fans, that injuries really, ruined is too strong, but hurt his career. Because it broke my heart. Dr. J was my favorite player, and Bill Walton led the Portland Trail Blazers to series championship over them in 1977. So I remember him as a great player whose career was sabotaged by injury. But I worked with Bill at ESPN. And he was a ton of fun to work with. He said my analysis was balderdash and poppycock, but hey, he was a lot of fun to work with. And I remember him as a great guy. I was disappointed when they took him off the NBA broadcast he did with Steve Snapper Jones, because I thought those two were great together. So I remember him as a great player, a great fun guy to be around, and I thought he was a tremendous broadcaster as well.
So on the basketball side of things, from midway point of his junior year of high school until the midway point of his senior year of college, he didn't lose a game. Didn't lose a game. There was an 88-game collegiate winning streak in there, plus what he did in high school, plus what he did his freshman year at UCLA. If you ask the question, who's the greatest college basketball player of all time, you're allowed to give 2 names, either Lou Alcindor or Bill Walton. They're the only 2 eligible. Then in the pros, as Brou mentioned, he has 20 points, 23 rebounds, 7 assists, 8 blocks to win a championship against Dr. J at the peak of Dr. J's powers. Then next year,
that was the youngest team ever to win a championship.
And the next year he followed that up by winning league MVP. And then foot injuries derailed it. But despite that, he then was 6th man of the year for a team a lot of people think is the greatest team ever, the 86 Celtics. With all that said, he might have been an even better broadcaster. And I was telling these guys before the show, when I was a little kid, Bill Walton is who I wanted to be. When I would tell people I want to do broadcasting, and I said I want to talk about the NBA for a living, it was the Walton-Steve Snapper-Jones combo on NBC that I loved and wanted to do. And I didn't know you had to be a player or a coach to sit in those seats. So many of my memories as a kid growing up, the soundtrack are him and Snapper bickering, playfully with each other. And I remember getting mad, telling my mom that I thought that Snapper Jones was so mean to Bill because I didn't know their friendship. So he is a legendary career over 60 years or 50 years, and truly unbelievable.
That was well said. Bill Walton was 71 years old.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.